years now. Basically, our work is in the area and the space of nutrition, and largely also trying to advance the fact that a lot of our nutrition outcomes are actually be able to realize by improving healthy diets and access to more nutritious food, and really working with different stakeholders also to scale up a lot of efforts that are different stakeholders are doing and having in the country. But then today it was good just for us to meet, because this is one of the very many engagements that GAIN has started, and we hope to continue having to really ventilate and just discuss the state of affairs in terms of our policy instruments and how much effort is actually going into that. Basically, we know as a country we have quite a number of policies that have been formulated even in the space of food and nutrition, and more are still coming up, and very important because we need them to be able to also attract and ring-fence resources, including also defining the structures and governance on how we deliver them. But then we still feel that under the Cascade project that there's so much that needs to be done in the implementation. Some of the policies I think we have discussed this morning is to look at the overall anchor strategy for the Ministry of Agriculture, which is Agriculture Sector Transformation and Growth Strategy, which is a 10-year strategic plan, strategy, really for giving the vision around how we really want to transform our agriculture and the food systems. We've discussed something around the fortification strategy. The first generation, we just came to an end last year, 2022, this 2018-2022. And I want to say that with that policy or strategy, we have started putting together the second generation. And basically, we have had a number of stakeholder meetings to just review and reflect on the journey in terms of how much effort actually Kenya has been able to put in place to achieve the mandatory food fortification requirement. Because we know very well that it's very important for us as a country in view of the micronutrient deficiency that we are facing. And I think we've discovered a lot of progress actually have been made with that policy, with that strategy. But there is still much more to be done, because largely the program has been implemented at national level, with the counties being involved. But I think with this second generation, we are very much deliberate, asking the counties now to have even their own domesticated strategies or cascading some of these frameworks in a way that can also give them opportunity to really attract resources and appropriate resources, including having more strategic work around it. So we have seen experience that GAIN has had in like 4 counties, for instance, in the past engagements. We've had the opportunity to work with Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, and Kiambu, where at least these counties developed certain draft policies on not just fortification, but also linking it up with the food safety issues. So the idea was to allow the counties to really look at their own context, and given that these are major urban counties, there's a lot of milling taking place, a lot of industry players that are involved in fortification that need a bit more governance and surveillance to be heightened, so that the kind of food that we're consuming in these counties are more nutritious and are really able to give us the value in terms of our health. And I would applaud Nairobi, of course, and counties that I've mentioned, because at least they have taken up, they have picked the momentum, even with the new government that are actually the new assemblies that they have already started the conversation. And in fact, Nairobi, they have already reintroduced the bill that was, of course, gone through very advanced stages. Right now, I think they want to take it forward, and we'll be able to continue supporting some of those initiatives. We just had an engagement with their health committee a few days ago. And really, you can see the counties are beginning to take up fortification more seriously. Yeah, so basically I would say today it's very important for us who are in the food and nutrition space to really appreciate that we have 3 critical forms of malnutrition that we are tackling and grappling with as a country. One is undernutrition, which has been there for long, because a lot of our communities are not eating enough food, and of course that means the stunting levels are still not very good, wasting still very high, and a lot of our children are still, including even health-wise, we find that are not really doing very well. The other thing is about rising cases of non-communicable diseases. It's because of the transitions we've had now in our health, dietary practices. Right now we are eating a lot of more highly sugary foods, sweetened, salt, and highly fat, food with high fat levels. And this actually has implication in terms of health. Now we have cases of high blood pressure has gone up, diabetes, even cancers and all that, as it were. So ideally, we are trying to bring all that to conversation to the table. And the third one is the micronutrient, which I think is highly recommended that we really must be able to enrich our staples with vitamins and minerals. And this not only just for the county government or national government, but all stakeholders must come together. And more importantly, the industry players. If you are a miller, if you are a premix supplier, in this case fortificant suppliers, and anybody else, including the civil society organizations like ourselves and others that are involved in this space, we need to have a concerted effort to really be able to work together through our either Kenya National Food Fortification Alliance or even the county alliances that are coming up, to be able to have these conversations, kind of look at the progress in terms of surveillance, and basically looking at our compliance levels as a country. How are we heading? And I believe something is happening, but there's much more. Right now we have had a lot of progress, especially the big millers, but I think there's still much more work that needs to happen, especially the small and medium millers that are now trying to be able to fortify, because obviously the challenges of accessing some of these commodities and basically the technology sometimes out of reach. But we are trying to, I see a lot of partners have come on board to support the small millers, because most Kenyans also do a lot of small milling. So those are issues that we know we are facing. At the same time, it's also we are trying to ask government to also provide enabling environment. Enabling environment here is that access to basic commodities to produce and process food shouldn't be very expensive. And that means that we're also touching on tax regimes. This country, it's been an issue. I think largely, yes, we understand there is overall microeconomic challenges we're facing as a country, largely because of the global challenges. But I think that has had implication in terms of access to safe, affordable and nutritious food for many Kenyans. Because one, the cost of food now is very high, and obviously it's been an issue politically, it's been really widely talked about. But we think if all stakeholders can come together and we start trying to reflect on our tax regimes, I think we really need to harmonize on certain areas. And the counties also need to be a bit more proactive, not to also overtax. I think they really need to look at how much are they able to get from the foods that are being produced, and also urge them to reinvest back, so that at least we are able to also see improvements in our food systems in terms of the infrastructure, and including other trade facilitation issues that we need to be addressing. So I think it's critical. It's an area that I think is still a bit hazy, and we need to get into it, because it's just one thing for government to subsidize production, but it's a whole new ball game for us to understand that a lot of food, the cost of food, is accumulated along the supply chain. So by the time you get this food from the farm gate to the consumer, there's so much that is really also passed to the consumer. And that is why we are where we are, either because of double taxations and a lot of sales and levies that are being imposed on food, and including the work we're doing in the space. That to me is our rallying call, that we really must be able to work together. We can reduce as much we're taxing from the food system, but there is a lot of more opportunity for us to also appreciate that if there is that private sector person cannot be able to take food to the last mile consumer, it's very little. You will always hear about certain counties facing high malnutrition levels, or in another has so much food, and this disparities comes because of those kind of challenges that we have experienced within the food systems. So I think to me those are critical issues that I felt we have discussed this morning, and are very important that we need to continue talking about. And as I say, it's a rallying call for everyone. Yeah, all the way from non-state actors to governments to everybody else, including the consumers. They must demand that if foods needs to be fortified, honestly, the consumers must be empowered to be able to ask and demand that they are able to access fortified foods, so that at least they can also see improvement in our health outcomes. But as I finish, I want to highlight something about our overall conversation around food system transformation in Kenya. I think as